So I'm just going to get started. Welcome everyone to the Work-Life Balance, Managing Personal Growth While Climbing the Career Ladder by Raimey Whittle, who is our Senior Director of Digital Solutions, CFX, JanSan at SP Richards. And for today's webinar, my name is Iris Weinstein. I'm the VP of Business Development at ISSA. I oversee the emerging leaders. And Heather Goswich has been leading the Emerging Leaders program, and she is on maternity leave. So I would like to welcome Jasmine Richards, who will be taking over for her in the in between time. So welcome to Jasmine. So many of you are current or past emerging leader nominees and finalists. So you'll be hearing from Jasmine as well as our upcoming programming. So what is Emerging Leaders? It's an ISSA group where we are looking to empower young professionals to grow, get recognized, and lead in our industry. The program honors and supports the next generation of young professionals in the cleaning industry, and we offer a variety of different opportunities, including industry recognition through the nomination program. We've got professional development, which our webinar series is included in that. We do also have leadership opportunities that I'll be talking about pretty soon. We have networking and our mentorship program. Networking, the next networking event is going to be at the ISSA show coming up in November 10th to the 13th. And of course, we've got a community engagement. Many of our young professionals who are part of the emerging leaders are actually doing some volunteering at some of our within our organization. And there are a lot planned for 2026. So that is really our emerging leaders network. And now upcoming education and events. So as I said, the ISSA show is coming up in November. We do have our nomination finalists for 2025 will be recognized at our spotlight event on Tuesday morning, November 11th at 9 a.m. And we will also have an award ceremony and happy hour on November 11th from 3:30 to 5 o'clock. So it's going to be a really great time. We are giving out drink tickets, and we will recognize the 30 finalists this year. In 2026, we have created a robust programming for our Emerging Leaders Network. In March, we will have a Emerging Leaders workshop that will take place in Washington, D.C. on March 23rd in conjunction with ISSA Advocacy Summit. We will also be hosting the first ever Emerging Leaders Conference, which will take place in Chicago in June. We will also be doing a golf tournament this year, which we're working on the exact date and location. We will also be doing some networking at next year's ISSA show, North America in Las Vegas. So that is our programming. Our majority of our programming will also be continuing a webinar series and some other opportunities as well. So we are here to hear from Raimey Whittle. And just before he starts the conversation, I just want to make sure that you guys get the most out of your hour since you are taking time out of your day for this. So the first thing would be engaging with the content that Raimey will be presenting. This is a conversation. If you have a question, if you want to provide feedback on any of the content, please use the Q&A for those questions. Definitely take notes and, jot down one or two takeaways that you can apply immediately to improve your work-life balance or to share with your other colleagues. And then connect with others. If you hear something that resonates or connects with Raimey or other attendees, We would love for you guys to promote the session on LinkedIn or any of the other social media channels. All right, so I am going to pass the baton to our speaker, Raimey Whittle.
All right, thanks, Iris, and thanks everybody for joining today. I can see from some of the texts that I'm getting here. Some of you I've worked with in the past, some of you I know. There's probably quite a few that I don't know. And simply my goal here today is just to share some of the experiences that I've had in my career. I'll share with you a little bit about my background in here in just a second. My hope is that out of some of the stuff that I talk about today, and maybe some of the interactive piece of this when you all are asking questions, maybe somebody can take away a few things that they can apply to their daily life and their career, and maybe help figure out where you want to go next or what you want to do next in your career. So I'm Raimey Whittle. I'm been with SP for about 12 years now. I'm a husband, a father of three. I have a 10, a 13, and a 15-year-old. So I like to joke around and say I'm in the fight right now, right? Just in life because it's busy. In addition to those obligations, I have two dogs and I don't know, 4 or 5 straight cats that won't leave the house on the backyard. So just a busy life with everything going on. I have responsibility at SP for all of our digital strategy. So you think Amazon, Walmart, you name it, any of those large corporates, and then inside sales, which is our smallest and mid-sized customers. And then I have some corporate JanSan responsibility. I've been here for about 12 years. I've had a variety of roles. Some of you that are on the call know that I don't know, I'm probably on my 8th role with the company at this point in 12 years. So just right when the seat starts to get warm, I move into something else in the company. So, and I'll talk about that throughout the presentation and kind of explain how some of that happened. And maybe that'll help you all in your career as you look for other opportunities. So I wanted to put something up here, this statement that I've thought about a lot over the years. You know, life is constant and our work doesn't have to be. Um, we're in charge. We get to define what that balance is based on our individual circumstance. Our life changes all the time. There are things that change all the time, and sometimes work has to be the priority, and sometimes life has to be the priority. So when people ask me about work-life balance, I say maybe just replace the word balance with the word priority, and that kind of puts things into perspective. Um, I could kind of just stop there, and that could be my TED talk for today. But that's really what it's all about. I mean, there's not necessarily ever a really good balance. It's more of what am I going to prioritize the most today, and that's what I've been able to use as I've navigated my career. So as we get into the agenda, I've broken it up into four sections here, right? I'll talk a little bit about early and mid-career journey, just some of the challenges that I've dealt with, and those of you on the call that know me know some of my weaknesses and you know some of my strengths, right? And you live those with me. So if you have any insight or you want to tell a story about me, that only good stuff, by the way. But if you want to comment on something that you've maybe seen me do well or not do so well, I'm open to that too on the call here. So we'll talk a little bit about the unwritten rules, and then managing a multi-generational workforce. That's something that's never going to not be important as we navigate our careers, because at some point we're going to be in the beginning, and at some point we're going to be at the end of that thing. So you're going to have to know how to manage up, manage down, and deal with all the generations that are in your building. A lot of times in the middle of your career, you can begin to feel stuck. Maybe you've been in a role for a long time and you're wondering what's next. So we'll address that. I've been in that situation a couple of times, and I'll explain how I navigated through that. The third section, life happens. We're going to talk about some of the things that are planned and some of the things that are unplanned, and how we navigate them. And then last, we'll talk about, now that you've heard all of this and now that we've all shared conversation, what do we do next? You know, how do we take steps to get better every day? Any questions so far? If not, I'll keep pushing along. And then any of the questions that you do have, just shoot into the chat. And I think Iris is going to step in and then just convey those, and I'll be able to address those live in real time. And then at the very end, we'll have some time as well to open the floor for questions. So early and mid career, one of the challenges that I dealt with a lot was imposter syndrome. So I don't have a traditional background. I didn't go to a big college. I didn't come from any pedigree. I had no connections to the industry. I mean, absolutely nothing. I actually started off in the restaurant business, and I wanted to make a career change and worked my way into a small sales job with a distributor. And I just used that to get into a corporate environment at US Foods and then off to Diversey, SC Johnson Diversey at the time. And then I've spent the last 12 years at SB Richards. So as you can imagine, a lot of the people that I worked with or that I was competing with for promotions along the way, I mean, they had MBAs, they had connections, they had college programs that helped push them into the right rooms, into the right seats. And when you work to that level, you sometimes feel like you don't really belong there. You know, it's like, what did I do to get here? I didn't take that same path. I would tell you that at the end of the day, if you're in the right company, leadership wants people that believe in themselves, that take a risk and take a shot on themselves, and not just people that are full of themselves. We've all worked with people that are very proud of themselves and proud of who they are. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they are the most committed or dedicated or better at you than their job. It just means that they simply may have maybe a little more confidence, or maybe they've never had to check themselves and feel what that imposter syndrome feels like. So I would encourage you that if that is something that you think about or deal with, that maybe you don't feel like you belong in the room as you work yourself up into bigger rooms, that can be a very natural thing, especially when you get up into the boardroom and to the, conversations with the corner offices. It's not a bad thing. It's a natural thing. And with time, with confidence, with people on your side, all that stuff becomes so easy and it just becomes a regular part of your day. I'll tell you one of the things that I've had to do, and I'll explain later in the presentation, is um, I've had to shoot my shot. I've had to take risks. I mean, the status quo does not, it just typically doesn't get you down the line, right? It doesn't help you climb that ladder. You're going to have to be different. You're going to have to differentiate and not be afraid to bring a reasonable idea, and sometimes maybe even a little bit unreasonable if the situation calls for it. But don't be afraid to take that shot. And when you do take those shots and you do bring those ideas, make sure there's a solution attached to it, right? If you see that there's a problem inside your company, one of the best ways to get the attention of the key decision makers that are just going to drive the strategy of your business, um, come up with not only that idea, but hey, this is how this solution is going to affect the company, right? I think that's what senior leadership really looks for, is people that have vision, right? If you can demonstrate that you have a vision for what the company or your department or whatever it is you're working on should look like, if you can demonstrate vision and show that you have a plan on how you'd like to achieve that vision, I mean, that's not something you see, you get taught in school. And I can say in my 15, 16 years in the business, I've come across very few people that actually have the ability to have a long-term vision for what it is they're working on, and be able to see what a future state could look like. I think it's very easy, and a lot of people, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think a lot of people they get caught up in doing a job, and that's their job, and that's what they focus on, and that's it. But when you're doing that, if you want to focus on your job and just do your job, that's fine. Stay doing that. But if you're looking to climb the ladder, that's the price of entry. Doing a good job in your current role is the price of entry. If you can demonstrate that you have that vision, that's when senior leadership starts to look at you in a different way, and think that, hey, maybe there's something more there with that person. Um, I don't know how many baseball fans there are in the in the audience today, but almost every sport has an unwritten rule, right? In baseball, it's if a guy gets a good hit and he flips his bat up in the air and he kind of taunts the pitcher, usually the next time he comes up to bat, pitcher hits him with the ball, right? He gets beaten with the ball, and There's no rule anywhere that that's ever been written down. But that's just sort of the unwritten rule in that situation. And in your career, in the corporate world especially, um, there's a lot of little unwritten rules. And the good thing is some of them you get to write yourself based on your situation. Um, One of the ones that I like to employ the most is be easy to do business with. Anybody that's ever worked on one of my teams knows that I have a small set of team principles. And one of those team principles is be easy to do business with. That doesn't mean roll over and die anytime you're faced with adversity. It doesn't mean you have to give in and not have a backbone. You still need to be firm and stand tall in your convictions and fight the fights you want to fight. But overall, you got to be easy to do business with. If you start to create a reputation that, hey, every time I go talk to Raimey, he's a real jerk. He's a real pain to deal with. I don't even want to deal with him today. Eventually that's going to get around. That seed is going to be planted in enough people where you're going to have a reputation that people are just not going to feel comfortable coming to you with things. And before you know it, you do that long enough, you're no longer part of the conversation. You've kind of silently worked yourself out of the conversation because people are going to go take the path of least resistance and work with other people in the company that are just easier to deal with, right? I mean, I'm sure all of us can think of a situation in our jobs today where you'd rather not deal with this person because it's going to be difficult to get something done, and you try to find ways to circumvent that. That person that's being difficult all the time, the masses will win. They'll work around. They'll work around you. It might take a year, 2 years, 3 years, but they're going to work around. Um, Another one of the unwritten rules is don't be afraid to let people know your hand is raised. If you're sitting at the desk working hard and you feel like you're being passed up or people are not noticing you, they're not looking at you. I mean, everyone is so busy nowadays, right? Everyone is busy. Everyone's being asked to do more with less. It's so rare that someone's going to walk up to you and say, "Hey, would you like a promotion?" I mean, I've never had someone just randomly walk up and say, "Hey, how do you feel about a promotion and a title and getting paid more?" Right? You kind of have to let everybody know that if something were to come available, I want to be considered. Raise your hand and be open to change. I mentioned in the opening, I've had about 8 different jobs with this company. Um, a lot of those were because I was open to change. I don't know that I was maybe always the best fit for everything that I signed up for, but I know that because my hand was always raised and I was open to change so much that I moved my family to Birmingham, from Central Florida. Sold our home, did the whole corporate move, did the whole thing. That really catapulted my career after that move into the next level. But I had to shoot that shot. I had to take that risk, and just be open to that change, right? Um, Point number 3, I would say, is start building a brand if you haven't done so already. That kind of ties into point number 1. Um, if part of your brand is going to be easy to do business with, great. What else are you going to build in there? Just that's up to you. I can't tell you what to do and uh, how to build your own personal brand. That's just something that you have to feel comfortable with and think about how you want people to perceive you, right? Um, a good one to add in there would be point number 4, right? Be authentic. Um, get really, really comfortable with feedback and be able to adapt to change pretty quick, right? Um, I have some good friends in the business, and we are pretty comfortable giving real feedback to one another, right? Even today, I had a situation with a coworker that I respect a lot, and they just kind of came after me in a way, that I didn't appreciate it. And at the end of the day, it's not really on me. That was just the way that I made them feel, apparently, and we had to work through that. And I took that feedback, right? I took it personal in the beginning, maybe for a second, but at the end of the day, it was just some feedback, and it helped me get a little bit better. And I found some spots where hey, maybe I should have done something a little bit different. I don't agree with you 100%, but I'll take that feedback. That's a huge sign of business maturity, because I promise it, some of you are probably already in the corner offices or in the boardrooms, but for those of you that haven't been in those boardrooms, I'm telling you, it's there's a lot of rules, a lot of HR rules even, that get broken sometimes. The conversations can get pretty heated, And if you're not comfortable dealing with that feedback, um, it's going to be a challenge. Just stay true to yourself, be authentic, have your personal brand built, and when you respond or when you comment in those situations, just stay consistent with your personal brand. One of the things that's probably helped me the most in my career is number five, is your inner circle. I don't know that I'd even still be with this company, just speaking candidly, if I didn't have that inner circle of people. Those people that I can talk to when things get really tough, um, when you just need somebody on your side. You know you're always going to have a small group, right? You have this small group of people. Be fiercely loyal to these people, and they'll be fiercely loyal to you. You don't have to like everyone in the company. You don't have to be friends with everyone in the company, but you have to be courteous and professional with everyone in the company. In that group of people, you got to find your people, right? Try to find a mix sort of up and down that chain of command. Find some people in the corner offices, find some people at the entry level. I know for me, early on, I found some people that were fairly high up in the company years back. Got to know them. I just asked them if they wanted to do lunch. At the time I was actually young, and I said, hey, I just want to learn more about the business and learn more about your career. You mind if we do lunch? And I got some people to say yes, and I got some good exposure, free exposure to some of our senior leadership, and I won some people over, and they've become, you know, partners in business and friends and people that I care about a lot. But at the same time, when I would go visit a distribution center or even worked in a distribution center, I'm talking to the entry level employee as well, getting those people to know me and adding a few of those into my inner circle, and it's helped me tremendously throughout my career. And then the last thing I'll say on this is we typically get rewarded for our performance, right? If we're hitting our numbers, it's great. We go up on stage, we get a little award, we get a little glass award, we get to put on our desk and take back and show everybody. But you're going to be judged by how you handle the pressure and the challenges, and most importantly, is how you treat other people along the way. That's probably one of the most important unwritten rules, is that business measures metrics, but people measure you based on the way that you treat them. And that's going to get you further along the career path than just hitting your numbers every year. Chris, do we have any questions in the chat or anything before we keep going?
Right now, we do not have any questions in the chat.
Okay. So one of the toughest things that I've found as especially since I've been with the same company for quite a long time, there's been a lot of new people coming in, a lot of people moving out. And I find myself sort of in the middle now, right? When I first started, I was by far one of the youngest people in the company. And we had people that had been in the company longer than I was alive at the time. I was 31, I think, when I started, and there are multiple people that were 33, 35, 40 years in the company. That was a challenge stepping into those roles, because how do you tell somebody something? How do you interact with someone that's been doing something longer than you've been alive, right? At the time. now I find myself sort of in the middle of both, right? I'm right in the middle of, we've got the 20 somethings that are starting and they're trying to figure things out, and then we've got people in their late 50s, early 60s that are, planning on the last 2 or 3 years of their career. I would say respect is probably the easiest barrier to knock down on the way in, right? It flows both ways. If you're humble and you're going to share ideas and information with each other, that's probably the best ticket in, right? Obviously, the older generation is going to want to share some of the stuff they've done. This is how we've done it. This is how I think we should do it in the future. This is what got me here, right? They're going to want to share things like that. And then younger generation is going to want to share sort of new tech and new things that are going to help all the generations in the workplace, right? So point number two, I reported into a guy who asked me what the little purple note icon was popping up at the bottom of his screen. And I said, well, that's been me for the past month and a half, sending you Teams messages that you never respond to. Speaking of, there's one that popped up now if you can't see. So, and this is a senior executive in our company, and him, he just wasn't willing to learn the Teams messaging format. He's like, nah, just call me, just text me. And then if I call one of my 20 something employees, they're not going to pick up the phone. That's just not what they do. They're like, oh, let's do it on Teams, or just hit me in a chat or something, or whatever other program we're using. So being able to share those different experiences and meeting people where they are in their career, um, I think it's easy to get negative and maybe look at people like, oh, I can't believe this guy doesn't know how to convert a PowerPoint, right? It's not their fault that stuff wasn't around back then. So maybe instead of being critical, we help them, and then vice versa. There's some other things that the senior team knows that the younger team can learn from. Um, I will say that now that I'm in the middle of this thing, nothing replaces a lived experience, right? I've always looked to the older workforce, no matter what age I was. Now that I'm even in the middle, I still look to some of our people that have been here a really, really long time, and just listening to what they have to say and taking away the parts that are valuable to me and then going back and applying them has served me really, really well throughout the years. So that's what I've got for the early and mid career piece of the presentation. Now I want to talk about what do we do when we feel stuck. Let's say we've been somewhere for a few years, um, or maybe we've been in a job, we've been in the same role for a few years. It's what do I do now? How do I get to the next level? Right? That's an easy place to get. It's an easy place for us to all end up. Um, and it's really tough to figure out what to do next. If you've applied some of those unwritten rules, you have your inner circle attached to you, I think that's where you start the conversation, right? You start talking in confidence to just a couple of people that you're close. Start asking them for their opinions. Hey, what do you think is next in this company? Where do you think we're going to be? Is there going to be a spot open in this department or that department? Because I'm interested in that, right? You start planting those seeds. And then while you're doing that, start coming up with your definition of success, right? Like what do I define success? When you're 20, everybody runs in and they say, hey, I'm going to be the CEO. Well, at the end of the day, there's only one, right? There's only one CEO spot. And life is going to change a lot along the way. So what you think in your 20s may be different from your 30s and your 40s and 50s and so on. Just know that you're in control of that definition, and those definitions can change anytime you want them to change, right? We live in an Instagram culture, right, where we can easily compare ourselves, and we see somebody who obtained something, whether it be title or job or money or status or something, and we're like, well, man, why am I not there? Like, why am I not there? I would say, in my experience, if that's the way you're looking at things, it's just going to be challenging to ever feel like you've landed somewhere great. And a lot of times, where you are today is someone else's dream. I promise you. Like, I've seen it so many times. There are so many people that would love to have the position and the job and the title and the paycheck that you all have. So just think a little bit if you haven't already. And if you have, maybe redefine if you need to, but come up with those personal and professional definitions of what success looks like to you. And then do the same with your career growth, right? Find what it is to you. Is it going to be title? Is it going to be money, experience, responsibilities? I would say if you look at those four words backwards, that's the responsibility and the experience is what gets you the money and the title, right? So looking at those in reverse, that's sort of the path to some of the things that you actually want. And then third, I would say take action, right? Just take action. Don't wait till everything is perfect. If you're feeling stuck, it's easy to kind of spiral and get a little bit trapped in your own head. And you sit in your office, or you're sitting in your cube, or wherever you're working from, home office nowadays. Um, Man, it's really easy to get lost in that. So just take action. I'll share with you a story. Probably me being a little bit too vulnerable here, but I'll share it anyway. So years ago, we had an organizational psychologist that was assigned to us in leadership, and it was me and probably 6 or 7 other people, and we each had a person um, that was going to evaluate us. And we spent hours talking to this psychologist. And we talked about from our earliest memory all the way to the current state. And it was a quite exhausting experience, but this person wanted to really figure us out. And I remember we get our results back, like a week later, everyone has a write-up and we're all sitting in the room and we're reading our write-ups for the first time. And I look over and I see people's reactions, and some people are scoffing, and one lady was actually crying because she strongly disagreed with with the write-up. And I remember reading mine and thinking, "Oh man, I'm great. This is awesome. Like, I'm great. This guy agrees. He said it. It's right here on paper." And then I get to this one line, and he pulled the rug out from under me, and it really changed the course of my career. The guy says, "Raimey, you've done a good job taking advantage of opportunities when they're presented to you." He says, "but you don't take action at all." He says, "you just sit there and wait for something to happen. And then when it does happen, you jump on it." And I mean, that like, it shook me, it shook me pretty good. But he was right. I couldn't argue with that, because I'm like, you know what, you're absolutely right. I kind of just do my thing and I work hard. And then when there's an opportunity, I'll jump on it. But if there's an opportunity, I wasn't out there creating anything for myself. So he kind of got me. He messed me up for a little bit, but in the long run, it really helped out, right? Um, it gets me to my next point about just being your own advocate, right? Be patient, be timely, but be your own advocate. Don't sit around and wait for the things that you want, but also don't jump too far and get yourself hurt in the career journey, right? What I mean by that is, if someone offers you a couple bucks more to make a move, the few dollars is probably not going to solve what it is you're looking for. It might actually be taking on more responsibility in your own company, even if that means you're not going to get a lot of money to do that. That responsibility might be the building block that you need to end up getting to that director role, that senior level role in the future. That might be that one piece that you need. So don't sit around and wait too long. Make sure you're taking action. Go out there and go create the opportunities you want. Another example of how I've done this is, um, early on, our JanSan business was a very small piece of our business. And I had to figure out a way to amplify the sales force. So we had maybe 8 or 9 people, and I had to cover 50 states. So I had the idea of flying all 8 people into one market, and we basically just blitzed the market to death. I mean, in 3 days we saw like 60, 70 customers, and a long story short, that ended up generating like 30-something million dollars for the company in a relatively short period of time. That idea, me executing on that idea, is sort of what opened the door for me, for people in senior leadership positions to say, okay, this person has the vision. This person took a shot. They took a chance. That could have failed. This time it didn't. But I was able to create the opportunity, and it landed me sort of into one of my first senior roles. So shoot your shot, as I said earlier in the presentation. One of the next things I want to cover is, how do I manage planned and unplanned life events? So all that said about my career experiences and things that I wanted to achieve along the way, how do I manage the things that are planned? Getting an education, going for your master's, buying a home, having kids, getting married, moving, all these big things. Um, I know some of you on the call may know this employee. I'm not going to say their name, but this young lady, she's got a ton of ambition. She still does. She wants to rule the world someday, and she probably will. But maybe just not right now, but she will. Um, she's getting married. She wants to start a family. They're in the process of buying a home. There's a lot going on, and she also wants to be the CEO. And I said to her, which one of those are you willing to give up? She's like, none. And I talked to her a lot about this, right? This is probably way more than most employee boss relationships talk about these things. But I said, you're trying to get all of life's major events done in a year or two. Right? That's a very difficult thing to do. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm just saying one of those you're not going to be present for. Maybe 2 of those you're not going to be present for. It's very difficult to get all that all done in a year or in such a short time. So she didn't back off of any of her goals, which I'm glad she didn't, but she just paced them out and stopped putting the pressure, and just realized, hey, these are things that I can plan out and that I'm in control of. Now, what she wasn't thinking about was the unplanned stuff. What do we do? What do we do if we have a medical challenge, an accident, loss of a loved one, just something, your husband or wife or partner, somebody loses a job? there's just so many things that you have to leave a little bit of space, leave just a little bit of space in there for the what ifs. Don't leave so much room that it cripples you and you can't make a decision, but leave a little bit of space in there for some of these what ifs. Um, I would say this is a good thing to talk about to your inner circle. Um, you will know you're in the right company, or you'll know you've built the right inner circle if you can go and talk about some of these things to those people that you're closest with, right? Your career shouldn't have to be in jeopardy because you can't talk about them or you can't manage. I have an employee that deals with crushing anxiety, and I didn't know about this for probably a year or so. And she does such a phenomenal job at work, and she wasn't telling me about some of these other things that were just tearing her apart. But now that we have that relationship where she's sharing these things with me, I can recognize when she's going through something, and I can say, "Hey, just take the day, take the afternoon, or take an hour, go take a break or something." Um, it's helped our working relationship phenomenally. Um, I would say try not to get caught up in too many of these goals too that are tied to maybe your age or a certain status. I mean, some younger people want to be the CEO tomorrow. Older people want to retire at a certain age. Like, I wouldn't get too dialed in on tying some sort of a goal just to your age, because there are so many unplanned things that are going to happen, right? It's not a matter of if. The unplanned will happen. Like, it will, those things will pop up, right? So recently, I'll share another thing that personal to me. So we're in the middle of a big transition in our organization right now. There's so much going on with our competition and customers. Well, my mother passed away unexpectedly a couple of months ago, and I can tell you in that moment, I didn't think about an email. I didn't think about a meeting. There were no Teams calls. All of a sudden there was nothing, like absolutely nothing that mattered more than that moment. And it really put into perspective to me that all of this stuff goes back to my original comment about life is constant, work doesn't have to be. That solidified that statement for me in ways that I wish weren't true, but it really did pull into perspective of what's important in the moment. And in that moment, work just didn't seem to matter. Obviously, right? It was one of those unplanned things that you got to leave a little bit of space for in your life, or you can just really run yourself down. So we're on the last section here. Now what? What do I do? I've listened to Raimey talk for 40 minutes, 35 minutes, telling us about the ups and downs of his career and getting picked apart by a psychologist. What do I do now? How do I take these things to the real world? What are some of the things that I can do? Um, Again, I'm going to say it, take action. Like, take action for yourself. Like, get out there and make something happen for yourself. And that doesn't mean, hey, I got to leave the company and go find a new job. It just means create activity, create action within your organization. Like, be seen, let people see you taking action. Apply some of those unwritten rules. Decide on who you are as a person at work, right? Because we all have lives outside of work, and our friends know us as one thing, and our family knows us as another person, and work knows us as another person. But make sure you have a brand. The people that are your friends outside of work, you've demonstrated a personal brand to them that's consistent with their values. That's why they're your friend. At work is a little bit different relationship, because you're hired into this based on what HR, your hiring manager, thinks of you. So you've got to really go and build a personal brand and then sell it to the people around you. Um, Number two, ditch the imposter syndrome. Just do whatever you got to do to believe you belong there, right? You absolutely have what it takes. And if there's a spot where you don't have what it takes and you're confident that you don't, you can go take the action, go get those skills. I mean, there's so many places out there to go get the little nuggets of information, get better at something, whether it's a program, whether it's, chat GPT, any of the AI stuff that's coming out. That world is changing so fast. If you feel it's relevant to your job and your career, go learn about that stuff quickly and become the expert in your office. Number three, be proactive in your definitions for what growth looks like and what success looks like, personally and professionally. And remember, those things can change, right? I mean, I've had a million ideas of what success looked like to me, and when you start factoring in your personal life and your professional life, those definitions have changed 100 times, right? And then don't be afraid to self-evaluate. Ask for that feedback, right? I mean, keep the things that work and improve on the things that don't, right? I would say I learned from somebody that I would consider, I mean, maybe partially a mentor to me over time is he said to me, he said, spend a lot of time becoming great at the things you're already good at, rather than a lot of things that you're not natural to you, right? Like I'm not a highly analytical person. It would do me no good to go to our analytics team and try to become an analyst with those guys. That is what they do. They are phenomenal at it. They're experts. I'm really good at some other things. So why don't I just try to become the absolute best at those things that I'm already good at? Um, and I'd never thought about that before. And that person really helped me advance my career with that advice. Um, and another thing that I'll share here, this is something that I've done. I don't know. I probably did this about a year ago, and it's really helped me out a lot. This is actually my son's. I did one of these for my son. His name's Noah, and it's the Be Do Have framework. It's all over the internet. You can find it and do one for yourself here. But so I'll use my son as the example in this case. He's kind of a quiet kid. He's not perceived as confident. He's not perceived as powerful or focused at all. He's just a teenager. He's kind of like the small kid in class, a little bit aloof, but he's a funny kid and he's friends with everybody. Right? He's a pleasure to be around. But if you were to say, is he confident, powerful, and focused? No, no, he doesn't. He does not appear to be that way. Deep down, he is, but he doesn't exhibit that to school and the rest of the world and the teams that he's on. Um, so we basically just followed along with the Be Do Have framework. I did one of these personally for me with a consultant that we were working with, and they helped me with mine. And you basically come up with these words of affirmation, and you think about the best version of yourself and what are the things that you want to be seen as. And these are the three things that he chose. And it's essentially helps you build out that framework of, okay, who do I need to be? Like, how do I need to show up based on the room that I'm in? If I know how I'm showing up now, what are the things I need to do? What actions do I need to take while I'm at work to end up having the things that I want? So in this case, it would be a promotion or a new job or advancing our career, right? If the have is I want to advance my career, okay, who am I going to need? Who do I need to be, and what do I need to do to get that? And so for my son here in this situation, he built out a little personal statement, and he says, "I'm a confident, powerful, focused young man." So anytime he gets into a situation, he's taking a big test, or he's in a tough situation in sports, or whatever, just a social situation that's difficult to him, he says that personal statement to himself. And sometimes I say mine to myself, right? When I go into a big meeting or there's a high pressure meeting, I'll say my personal statement to myself quietly. And if you would have asked me that 5 or 6 years ago, I'd have been, that's garbage. There's no way that works. I can tell you it works. It really, that little boost of confidence in yourself, it's really helped me. It's been a neat little trick that like I said, never would have believed in the past. But if you want to put some time into it, it ends up being a pretty cool exercise. And if anyone wants to talk about like offline, you can hit me up on LinkedIn or something, and I can walk you through kind of how I did it. But it's been a really nice tool that I've used over the past year or so. So Iris, that is it. That's my TED talk for today. If you want to open up the floor for any questions, or if you have any questions yourself, I'd be happy to run through them.
Yeah, thank you, Raimey. I wrote down a ton of stuff, a ton of takeaways from everything that you talked about, and we would love for those who are on to kind of give us your takeaways or some questions that you have. I put in the chat, does anyone have any professional experience that really changed your career path? Any moments that you can share that, other people may resonate with? That was one of my questions that I put in the chat. Um, I loved, Raimey, what you said about replacing the word balance with priority, because there's always, every day it's a choice on, what your priorities are for that day, whether it's work or personal. and you have to measure them out. So I love that. Um, yeah, prioritizing the day by the day. I also wanted to, as far as a key takeaway, is you were talking about, your career path. And when back in the day, I was always told that, it's totally normal to change your career path multiple times in your career. So I would love to hear from those who are on the webinar. If your career path currently is the one and only, or you've already gone through a couple of different pathways. Um, I think right now I feel like this might be my third or fourth different professional career change. So I am sure that many of you on this webinar also has that. I see Quincy says that, let's see, private sector, 20 plus years, and then 3 years in the public sector. So that is a huge change. Quincy, I don't know if you wanted to share with us anything that really, you did mention that it was a huge change. Perfect. And then Martha, are we able to get some of the participants to chat or to speak?
Yes, we can. Let me allow them to raise their hands. And then if anybody does want to raise their hand, then we can allow you to talk.
Quincy Bland is the one that is gonna speak first.
All right, go ahead, Quincy.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Wonderful. So great presentation. I took a lot of notes and this was really, really on time for me. So I appreciate that. Um, like I stated, 20 plus years in the private sector, coming to the public sector. I think the biggest culture shock for me, overall change, was the politics. In the private sector, it's all about business, hitting your P&Ls, very corporate lifestyle, corporate America. Coming to the public sector is a little more slower. You have to be very nice and very kind, and the budget is a completely different spec. So, talking to principals, talking to teachers, and involving with the students is a complete different lifestyle than talking to CEOs and CFOs and top business leaders. So the professionalism was still there, but the accountability was a little different because one person told me private sector moves very quickly, school systems move a little bit slower. And so I was able to learn a lot. The stress work life balance has been big for me because I do move a million miles an hour, working 50, 60 plus hours in the private. Now, the public has allowed me to get a little bit more closer with family and teach and bond with my teams a little bit more. And so I've learned it's been tough, but I've learned the easy way and also the long, hard way.
So Quincy, does that mean that in the 3 years in the public sector, that this was a positive change? That
It
is,
was. Absolutely, and I apologize. The private sector gave you all the resources and tools to learn your role. They gave you all those different sheets, checklists, everything you needed because for those contract companies or major companies, things were already established. Coming into the public sector, you kind of sink or swim. And so I was definitely swimming. And so I had to get registered, take different courses, get certified, not just with ISSA, but also with here in Texas, our Texas Association of Business Officials, and actually learn the basics from basic operational all the way to the different payroll, legal. There were just so many nuances and avenues that I had to learn that never crossed my path in the private sector. So I see a benefit from it, and I do advise anybody who's never worked in the public sector give it a shot because it is a huge change from the private. I think I had a full head of hair when I first started the private. Lost all that hair, now I'm bald. But in the public, it's growing back. So the work life balance is coming back, and you're able to balance a little bit better in the public versus private sector. So huge benefit, huge plus.
thank you, Quincy, for sharing that.
Thank you.
Anyone else that wants to share? Terry. Terry talked about moving from redistribution to manufacturing.
Yeah, I just heard, anyways, just moving from redistribution where you have all finished goods and they're sitting in your distribution centers, and then moving to manufacturing where, sometimes you have production problems and things like that. It's a totally different world. But it was a lot of fun changing, and I really enjoyed moving into manufacturing.
Was that something you were looking to do, actively looking for a career change, or did just an opportunity come up that you couldn't pass?
It was actually a job loss. And so, but what's interesting is a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who and so I knew the person that was in the position, and he had just given his notice, and I was talking to him, and he said, by the way, they're going to be looking for somebody. And so it just worked out beautifully.
One door closes, another one opens. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how long have you been there now, T? It's been a while, right?
3.5 years.
Yeah. Good for you.
Wow. Thank you for that. Rob Heglin, you definitely have been in different industries, but I would love to understand more about like remaining in that marketing product management role and how you have changed positions in different companies and different products.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Rob.
All right. Yeah, so I have worked in many different industries, very different industries. But I through each transition, I, learned more about the different types of opportunities and roles that were more intriguing to me, or more, that I had stronger skill sets in. So, within those times, some of the jobs might have been more marketing focused, and others were more product focused. And in doing so, I learned that, I really enjoyed more of the upfront product development side of it, with then the transition to the marketing of a new product or service, whatever it might be. And I've learned that the skills needed for those are often transferable. But the biggest challenge I did run into is just the different environments and the processes within each environment. So, obviously in healthcare, from a product management perspective, it's a lot more strict in compliance, and whereas, on the office furniture side, not as strict with compliance. So there were those areas where I had to learn new aspects of the industries, which was a challenge, but I also loved learning new things. So, and a lot of those things that I've learned are more general for the market. So it's helped me in, being able to look outside of just, the market that I'm currently in or was in at that time.
Would you say, so Rob, would you say, you mentioned a lot of the jobs were completely different, different industries, maybe even, were there things that, even though it was a completely different role or department or even altogether different industry, would you say that there's things that you learned along the way that you were able to apply to these other roles that you're in today?
Yes, for sure. A lot on the stage gate process for product development. That's when you're producing a product, you go through phases of it. So you got to build the business case first, and then you have to then look into you know, what would it take for us to manufacture this? Do we have the resources to do so? If not, what would we need to get in order to make it? That's something I learned from one job and was able to carry on to my next 2 roles in different markets.
Got it.
Mhm. All right. Well, we are getting, actually, it is the 2 o'clock, at least Central Time, and we could continue this conversation. Perhaps this is something for 2026 in developing some new ways of engagement for next year is to take the topics that we've learned from the webinar and just do the Friday or morning coffee talks and just have conversations based on different topics. So if you guys are interested in just having those, not necessarily a webinar, but just like a networking opportunity and talking about different challenges or topics like this, please let myself or Jasmine know. But I would like to thank Raimey for bringing these insights about work-life balance or priorities. It's definitely something that we all struggle with throughout our careers. Please use the QR code. The QR code for all of our events that are taking place with the emerging leaders. We are here to support the young professionals in the industry. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. Martha put in the link for the other 2 webinars that we did earlier, and we will also have the link to this session on our website soon. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Yep. Thank you all.